Yes! What's up, everybody? Oh my goodness. I am excited for today. You guys heard this song? I'm like obsessed with it now. It's been on repeat for the last 24 hours. Terrible. So as you come on, let me know that you can hear me and see me. I'm so excited to get started today. We're going to go into some very important things, okay? Let me turn this down. Even off, although I've been rocking out to it all day long. Okay, guys. So if you don't already know me, if you're new to my world, my name is Jackie Lacroix. I have done coaching work with women for over 10 years now in everything that pertains to being an embodied female is one way to describe it. And one of the number one areas women have come to me for help with, which was not my intention to begin coaching in, but over and over and over, I would be asked for help in what women were struggling with: intimacy, okay, in their relationships, in their marriage, or even before they were married, and the way they perceived this topic and their bodies, and maybe traumas they'd been through or experiences that they did not see positively, or just cultural misconceptions. So we are going to go into some very heavy stuff today, guys. We're also going to have a lot of fun. And one of my favorite things, to be honest, sometimes it drives me nuts, but I reframe the way I see it to be one of my favorite things, because it really is kind of amusing, is watching what people assume I'm going to say, right? What they think I'm going to cover, or the position I'm going to take, if you will, or the philosophy I have on this topic, right? Maybe they expect bravado and some of those little tongue-in-cheek jokes, kind of like that one. And that certainly will be the case. Maybe they expect an over soft kind of, super caring, don't want to rock the boat in any way perspective. Maybe they anticipate that it's going to be hard driving and you need to do this. And what's your problem? Maybe they assume it's going to be, I don't love it, but kind of like almost a trashy type of conversation. None of that is how I handle this topic. And yet it's always fun to me to see how people come to me with all of their preconceptions, all of their baggage, and assume that's what they're going to get here. What you're going to get here today, in the next hour, possibly over an hour, sometimes we've been going to almost 2 hours, is the fullest picture I can give you in such a short time frame of one of the most integral parts of being a woman, of being a human, right? But women are the ones who come to me, although more and more men will come to me and they'll ask me to help their wife, or, kind of get their girlfriend on the right track as they head toward marriage, etc. But I work with the ladies, right? And sometimes it's a couples conversation, but generally speaking, my goal is, if I can only help, if I can only affect change in the woman, how much can I get done in improving the relationship, right? That's the perspective I come from. Now, in the rest of her life, it might seem like, yeah, of course, it's her mindset, it's her body care, it's etc. But in an intimate relationship, there's two people involved, generally speaking, right? So it almost feels like, well, you have to talk to him too, right? Well, what if I can't? What if he's not on board? What if he's not even in existence yet, and a woman just knows that she needs to recalibrate how she sees and understands this area of her life? So how much can I create change and transformation while only working with the woman? And that has been the track record of results that I've gotten I've been doing this work since 2017, end of 2017. Somebody do that math. Is that 5 years, almost 6 years? We're heading into something long. In fact, one of my clients wrote to me the other day and was like, yeah, I joined that, I think like 6 years ago. And I was like, 6 years ago? You must be joking. But not at all. That's how long we've been doing this. And in that container in which I support women, I have literally been showing up for that monthly call every single month for 6 years. So this is something that I'm very passionate about, that I believe is very, very, very important. And we're going to set the stage a little bit for how this fits into the context of a bombshell. It's going to be very clear, I think, very quickly. But for my lovely, adorable, sweet people who wish they could hide under a rock when this topic comes up, I want you to know I have been there. I have been you. I have been in that spot, wishing that this just didn't exist and babies actually came from storks and we never had to deal with the pain, the drama, the confusion, the hurt, the harm, the seeming inequality and unfairness of it all, of this topic, okay? And I've learned that those fears that made me not want anyone to ever utter a quote unquote dirty joke, which, as I'll explain later, I don't think actually exists, I was the one who was understanding a lie, but they often were too. So we're going to go in 3 cycles today. We're going to talk about lies, we're going to talk about truths, and we're going to talk about safety. I'm going to write them on the board in 1 second. And you'll see that rather than spending all of our time first going through lies and then moving to truth and then moving to safety, it's this beautiful cycle where we're ebbing and flowing back and forth through all 3 areas, right? And I'll show you exactly what I mean in a minute. But first, I want you to understand, it is literally impossible. Thank God, right? I mean, I know that people are working on bizarre science projects, okay? But currently, and hopefully forever, in my opinion, the only way to be a human is to have been created through this magnificent act of intimacy. So the irony of an embodied living human not wanting to discuss the very reason they are present here on Earth, right? But again, there can be so much pain, so much trauma, so much disgust. And what we're going to talk about, and if you've done work with me in body stewardship, you will recall the symptoms of shame. We're going to go over the symptoms of shame around intimacy and sex and see how that shows up. All of the different ways they can manifest as lies. But I just want to take a moment for those of you who are like, I know I have to force feed myself this conversation like the nastiest collard greens I've ever had to choke down, because it's an area of struggle, or my relationship is on the rocks because of it, or I know as a woman this is an area that I have huge trauma around, I need to work through, but I sure wish I didn't have to pay any attention to it. I feel you, okay? There are so many women, clients who come to me, and on the initial call where they're deciding whether or not they want to go farther, they tell me, I would be so happy if I never had to have sex again in my life, right? Which for women who know how magnificent this area of life is like, so sad, right? Just so sad, but it's a very real feeling for many of them. And then what I do, again, taking the stance of if I can only ever transform the woman, show them what is instead possible for them, show them what was divine design the entire time, show them that in spite of all of the grotesque, horrific, criminal, I mean, the most depraved misuses of this area you can imagine, that the original intent for it was to be so life-giving to the woman, not life-taking, as culture has often showed us. All forms of culture, church culture, secular culture, all over the place, right? So if we're talking about being a bombshell, we literally cannot skip this area. 1, if you guys were on the earlier trainings, or you know my definition of a bombshell, a stunning woman, right? A physically stunning woman, a woman who's not completely hiding, shutting down, avoiding any reaction to her feminine self by completely ignoring her appearance and her physical form. A feminine, attractive woman is going to be perceived in, among many ways, sexually, right? It's one of the feedback symbols that women get. And it's one of the reasons that many women just wish this whole area didn't exist so they could go out in the world and feel free in their appearance and not get unwanted feedback, or because they don't want that feedback or that connection or relationship at all because they're so traumatized in this area. So they completely turn off the appearance that would elicit any such feedback, right? So if you're going to step into being a visibly embodied feminine woman, high value, high visibility, highly feminine, this is going to be an area you need to be so rock solid, grounded in, so that when things come at you, what men do, what other women do, what the world does, you cannot be shaken. But what I want you to understand is that this is not something we're addressing so that we can preemptively prevent problems in this area that come from people who are not healed in this area, right? This is actually something completely beyond anyone in your life, or anyone, any random stranger, any passerby, anything you would get anywhere. This is a part of the core of your security and confidence and identity and groundedness, and therefore power as a woman and as a human. Okay, so many of the times when women come to me with struggles in this area, it's very, very rare that she already has the self-awareness to say, I want this area to be better for me. I know I'm going to have more confidence, or I know I'm going to enjoy my life more. I know I'm going to whatever. It's usually because it's perceived as an issue that's creating results she doesn't want with her relationships with other people, whether it's a husband and a marriage that's kind of faltering, whether it's, she's out there dating and she knows that she's completely turned off, any of her sexual attractiveness or sexual energy, and she knows it's from fear and from trauma, and it's affecting the types of men she wants to ultimately be in a long-term connection with, right? Or it's because there's other women in the workplace and they're sabotaging her and they're slandering her and they're harming her because they're threatened by her appearance, whatever it may be. It's perceived as, I have to deal with this area because of other people. And the first thing I want you to understand is that we begin with reclaiming this for ourselves. Okay? So that's the bedrock of everything we're going to talk about. But I want you to also know it's incredibly difficult to continually return to that truth, because we have so much evidence to the contrary, right? So much feedback. I mean, unless you literally live hidden in your house, and even then, make sure you don't turn on the TV or the radio, right? There's so much feedback that this part of a woman's life is for other people, even if it's for the creation of other people, right? This is like the part of her that should be outsourced, that God gave to her as and you will serve others with this, right? I'm not saying those aren't beautiful aspects of this, but the core of it, which we so often forget and almost no one tells us, again, not in Christian culture, not in secular culture, rarely our parents, like no one. It's not even that this is safe and sacred, therefore protect it or save it for him. This is for you. Whatever you even feel called to do with it, right? If you're not called to marriage, I mean, it's going to be for you for a long, long time, right? Whatever that may be, but it begins with this was a gift to you, okay? So from that philosophy, which you're going to see me returning to and returning to and returning to and returning to, because it's something that we have to train ourselves into, reprogramming ourselves out of false beliefs into true beliefs. You're going to hear me practically beat it to death as we go through what we're going to cover today, but we're constantly building on that reality, okay? And I can argue it from premises scripturally. I can argue it from premises scientifically. Believe me, I'm loaded on this topic, okay? And it depends on who I'm having the discussion with and what authority they value, how I attack, if you will, or build the reality of this truth, okay? So I'm going to write on the board our 3 categories, and we're going to dive into some of the lies we've believed, and then the truths that are going to set us free, the essentialness of safety to be able to receive those truths, and if you guys read the little teaser ad for this, the role of our bodies in allowing it to drop down. Because how many of you know that you can have something in your head and you know that it's true, right? Maybe it's your relationship. The guy tells you he loves you, he loves you, he loves you, he loves you, he loves you. Have you guys seen that hilarious meme? I think it's a wife who leans over to her husband at 4 a.m, wakes him up and says, "Do you like me?" And he says, "I married you. Of course I like you." Right? And she goes, but like me, right? And it's that level of, I've heard it, but I don't yet believe it, right? And I want you to even go able to be beyond believing into embodiment. It's no longer just even what you tell yourself you believe or what you do believe and you really have received it, but it is now exploding out of all corners of your life because it's who you are. When you find a woman who is healed in her sexual side, okay, who has essentially stepped into sexual mastery, and I'm going to destroy a lot of lies, even around that particular understanding of that particular term, but she has done the work in this area. And this is precisely what I help women do. It doesn't guarantee the success of her relationship. It doesn't guarantee fertility. It doesn't guarantee that all of her children will behave perfectly. It doesn't guarantee that her friend circle won't shift a little bit. It guarantees a degree of connection to God through her divine design in this area and an unshakable security and confidence that, in my opinion and experience, allows her to be aligned with who she was supposed to be the entire time. So there's often a little bit of a shakeup, but then you become so stable you can't be touched. There are a lot of people who fake confidence. To me, confidence is not the most attractive trait in a person, not by far. To me, health, true, sincere, authentic, physical to the greatest extent they're capable of, emotional, mental, sexual even, right? But more from the mindset stance, relational, spiritual, health, because you can't fake that. You can put confidence on. You cannot fake healing. And so that's the work that I do. And that's what we're going to do our best to move through as much of as we can today. Hello, I'm so excited you guys are here. Okay, so let's dive in with the first set of lies. How many of you know that there is probably no greater area where we have been lied to more than around sex? It is, I see it as like this muddy pit of snakes, okay? Like in my mind, that's how I see how most people understand sex. So we're going to spend plenty of time there. But one of the biggest mistakes, and in a way it's its own lie, is people will focus only on the lies around sex, right? They'll tell you all the things to not do, all the things, maybe even they're correct, that aren't true, right? They'll tell you all the things that you should be scared of, that you should be worried about, that could go wrong, or the ways that people have stepped out of alignment. Fine. Sometimes they're inaccurate, in my opinion. Sometimes they're accurate. But what often is missing is a picture of what's true. And if we don't have a vision for what it's supposed to be, a lot of times it can feel so defeating that we just stay in the realm of what we've known for so long, which is the lies, especially if we're in a culture or a community that perpetuates the lies, right? That tells us all, hey, that's all he wants, or this is just a wifely duty thing, or you use it to manipulate him, and then you show up with a pregnancy test one day and lo and behold, he has to marry you, right? Like there's so many awful subcultures around the misuse and the misunderstanding of sex. And if there's no vision painted, how many of you know if there's without a vision, my people are destroyed, right? Without knowledge, my people are destroyed. Without a vision, they perish. So we need a vision and we need knowledge. Without a picture of what the truth is supposed to look like, it's so easy just to stay in the loop of the lie. Yes? But how many of you have heard what it is supposed to look like, how great sex is supposed to be, that this is a gift to women, that it should be this fulfilling. I mean, let's just start with the basics, right? To me, for many people, this sounds ideal. To me, it's like ground level, that it should be fulfilling, enjoyable, deeply satisfying, both partners on either the same page or similar pages and willing to kind of work together to make it overall a wonderful part of their relationship. That is, for many people, like the goal. What I try to tell people who are considering stepping into healing in this area is that that's ground level, okay? There's nothing wrong with it. That's awesome. But I'm talking about the kind of transcendent spiritual worship experience that is also coupled with this very, very, very animal release. Like it is next level, right? And to imagine the kind of bond that is built when it's at that level, well, it's a good one, right? So we can hear how it's supposed to be. And you may even hear me say that and say, sure, Jackie, maybe that's in someone else's life. It doesn't much sound like mine. Fair. But there's something that allows us to move out of lies and into truth that is important all the time when we're doing any kind of transformation work. But it is absolutely critical in this area, and that is safety. Okay? Now, if you guys have heard me teach before, you may have heard me say one of the most important things I do when I'm working with women, and of course I am a woman, is actually hold a more masculine frame for them, right? I'm creating a container where they can finally and completely exhale, where they know that they're safe, where they're not going to be judged, they're not going to be criticized, they're not going to be condemned, there will be no finger shaking, there will be no shaming, there's total confidentiality, right? They are literally able to finally relax in my presence. And many times for many women, and particularly in this area, they have never been able to do that before in their life. Which is many women will tell me things that they say they've never told their partner, never told their pastor, never told their parents, and yet they feel safe with me, which is an honor beyond. It's an extraordinary honor, but it's also an essential part of the transformation process that they feel safe so that we can go into what's there And so that they don't fear the ledge, right? Which is how it often feels when we're stepping out of the lie, which has been probably very damaging, but it's been convenient in its own way, right? We functioned with it. We're still alive. We have maybe a relationship that's built on it, a lack of relationship that's built on it. We have friendships that are built on it, family dynamics perhaps that are built on it, a relationship with our bodies and with God that's built on it. It's comfy. We've gotten used to it, right? It's a hovel, but it's home. Yes? And so to step to the ledge where you've been living in the lie and look over at the truth, it feels kind of scary, right? It feels like, I think I'll just stay here. It's okay. It's okay. You know, it's not that important of an area. Anyway, I'm very happy in my career. My body's fine. Right? Like my kids are going to figure it out, right? It's a huge leap for many people to go from lie to truth. And the only way, in my experience, that we do that, sometimes we're forced, unfortunately, but even when we're forced by some kind of life tragedy, it can be easy to just jump to another lie. It's that stepping into truth at last that requires a knowledge that we're safe and we're held. Because as much as I would love, and we can even just draw this like imaginary cliff, right? I'm such a good artist, guys, okay? Imaginary cliff between lies and truth, and we come up to it, we're looking over it, and I would love to tell you that it's just one giant leap, boop, and you're in truth. And never again are you plagued by inaccurate thoughts around sexuality and intimacy, right? It's not true. So frequently it's like, step back. Lean a little bit. No, I'm going to walk back this way, right? And maybe firmly in truth, something awful happens in life, back in a lie, in a different lie, in another lie, in a combo of lies, right? It's not easy necessarily. I can tell you that it's worth it, and I can tell you that it requires safety, okay? So if you guys are ready, and for those of you who are here watching, I'm so excited. Let me know, as I'm going through these, what lies have you either believed or, you know, I know this is public. Some of you in the private Facebook group, you can write comments a little more openly. But what have you either believed or just heard? Lies about intimacy. Now, I'm going to warn you, if it's partially true, I'm going to coach you on it, okay? Because one of the lies that we have is that this whole area is awful or evil or unsafe or for men, and then we don't parse some aspects of truth that are contained perhaps in a lie or a lie culture and pull it over into our camp and steal it back because we saw it wrapped up in something that obviously was harmful or a lie. Okay, and I'll give you examples of that. I know that's a little bit vague. But the first one I'm going to put up, and you guys, if you want to put in comments, feel free. If you don't, believe me, I got plenty of content to list them all out myself. I know these very well. The first lie is that female sexuality, if you want to be specific, or just sex in general, is for men. Okay? Heading up to the ledge there. Okay? How many of you have heard that? I saw a meme the other day. I love my memes, guys. Always surfing through Instagram. And it said something, I think it was a young girl, maybe somewhere between 8 and 12, who was holding a sign that said, "My body is not a stumbling block." Some of you, through probably the best intentions of people who wanted to keep you safe and prevent problems in the community that you were in, picked up unconsciously, not even anything biblically accurate, but the untruth that by being an embodied feminine, just embodied, you don't even have to be feminine, right? Just a woman, which was not your choice, right? You were born that way, okay? That just by being an embodied woman, you were a problem. You were a threat. You were a temptation. You were somehow like this walking existence that would just cause men to combust into a little flame of lust that they could not control, and that therefore they need not be held accountable for any of their actions taken while in that you-induced state. Right? So when you hear things like that, especially when you're young, what do? Right? And there's lots of, these are like sub-lies, okay? So this is a very impartial list we're going through today. I want you to know, like, if you're thinking, well, I've also heard this, probably, okay? As they say, the truth is narrow. Yes, therefore lies are in every conceivable direction. They multiply it. Sometimes it feels like the snakes on Medusa's head, right? So, in fact, let's not even go to 2 yet. Although you could see these as separate as you want, or you could see them as sublies. You're the problem. Your body is bad. Right? Now, here's the irony, among many ironies. A lot of women will come to me and they've grown up in some kind of community or culture that has taught them, or just simply they inferred it. They somehow picked up this message. And then, through the blessed, beautiful path of wedding showers and engagement parties and engagement pictures and a ring you want to show off to everybody, they get married, right? And all of a sudden, your body isn't bad. It's your duty. It's your responsibility to keep him satisfied. So we've just gone from your very existence is a problem to when you're done with the children and the chores and the dishes, we're asking you to be phenomenally attractive, put on lingerie, and really want to jump into bed. Right? Now, that may not be even inaccurate completely. I'm not going to go into it right now. And it takes a lot of parsing, that one. But it's very, very difficult for many, if not most women, to flip that switch from something that they have been deeply ingrained during the most formative years of their life as being dirty, bad, wrong, their fault, their problem, a danger, and suddenly it's magnificent, it's wonderful, it's to be on display, you're supposed to be free. You're like, and most of the women who come to me say, I could never flip that switch, right? Regardless of what they did even before maybe they were married. Worked with women from all kinds of different backgrounds, right? For some of them, their wedding night is the first and only. For others, not even close. And yet, it can still feel difficult to flip this switch whenever they're in their kind of lifetime relationship. Why? Why not, right? We've had all of these lies that like, this is bad, and suddenly it's good. But there's another lie that you probably have already picked up in this, that it's all for him, right? Beforehand, it was for him and you were the problem because you were the temptation, you were the stumbling block, you were, the root of all evil, essentially, just for existing on earth in the body God gave you. And now it's your job to make him happy. Watch this one. It's not only your job to make him happy, it's your job to make him happy so that other women don't become the temptation instead. I mean, we could, like, there's more lies, but we could just pause right there. Really. Why? In fact, I'm just going to add it. Okay. I'm going to add preventative. Okay. Because now your duty, preventative. And again, I'm not saying there aren't shreds of truth in this, but you can see packaged in this total belief system and this cultural morale, it's problematic if we're trying to get to truth that flourishes, right? Because right here, what we have, if we just add all of these ingredients together, you're the problem, your body is bad, it's your duty, and it's a preventative measure. Because, by the way, he's the superstar, okay? What we have is a recipe for resentment. Oh, yum, right? Thanksgiving meal. Resentment is on the table. How many of you have ever felt resentful? Right? It doesn't even have to be in this area of life. It doesn't have to be in a romantic relationship. A marriage doesn't have to have anything to do with men. You've just had a feeling in your body of resentment. Yes? Anyone? Okay. I know I have. And when you feel that way, how do you react physically? Right? How do you react physically when everything in you has this kind of slow, simmering anger, bitterness, but you're not really, like, you don't even have a solution for it necessarily. So it's not like you can tell him what he could do to make it better if he even wanted to, right? It's just like this disease practically that lives in you. And what does it make you do? It's like, if You guys know Gollum from the Lord of the Rings? There's a lot of different emotions that can lead to that kind of internal state, but that kind of like twisted, closed, angry, retracted, about to attack, all at the same time. Yes? It's not exactly how you want to feel when you're heading into the bedroom, right? But many women do, because this is the recipe they've been given for what sex is. Yeah? Let's look at another lie. It is, what do I want to call this? I'm going to put both. It's a manipulation tool, right? It's a bargaining chip. You help with a certain number of chores all week, maybe Saturday night, we'll see. Right? Okay? If you do X, Y, and Z, then we'll blah, 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 right? I'm choosing my words here on YouTube. Okay? You guys know what I'm talking about. Or before there is a solid committed relationship, or she's trying to inch him toward commitment because she wants that stability of status. Understandable, no judgment. It's like a little dangling thing, right? I mean, even in some kinds of lingerie advertisements, it's he-centric. It's tease him, delight him, surprise him, seduce him, him, right? It's like a song, you know, and it's all about him. So even before she gets to one of the hallmarks of long-term commitment for many women, which is resentment and intimacy, which leads to being closed off. And we're going to get into kind of how it gets even nastier. I know it's real fun, right? But then we're going to move into the better part. So calm down. Manipulation is how you get to the committed relationship where you then can afford to be resentful, right? Because now you've locked him in. Now you've locked him in. He thought he was just dating you for a period, and then lo and behold, you come up with a pregnancy test and a set of balloons, and you like trying to get him all excited or whatever. I mean, I don't even understand women who do things like that, and most of you here, like women like that, don't like me very much, right? But some women, it's a manipulation tool to get into a relationship. Oh. Other women, it's manipulation within the relationship, right? It's like you'll cook and clean and he'll fund you if you also put out, right? It's like it's a trade. It's on the list of chores and it's a chore for you. How many of you have ever felt like this area is a chore? I hear that so much from women. They go through their whole day. They've gone to work, perhaps. They've taken care of children. They maybe have a health issue they're dealing with, or they have extra weight. They don't like their body anyway very much. And then it's, 10 p.m. She can barely see straight. She's so tired. And he looks at her like, so you want to, right? And she's like, no. Yes? No, I don't want to. Okay. So it's for him. Resentment, manipulation. How about this? I'm so sorry to have to go here. I wish this didn't exist. But the amount of work I have done in this area, it is so common. I am going to put misuse next to abuse, because a lot of women will come to me, and I'm going to get to that in a second. And they'll say, well, I haven't been abused. I haven't been raped. I haven't been harassed, really. I haven't, I say really because most women have at least one point. But it hasn't been bad. It's like there's no real trauma in that area. I don't understand why I have issues with this. Why am I finding it difficult to open? Why do I feel my body shutting down every time I go into a sexual scenario, right? Why do I want to run, or I want to avoid, or I want to lash out at him so he backs off, or like all of the different ways this manifests? That's just misuse, right? They've been in culture. They've seen the videos and the movies and the advertisements and the songs and the music videos where it's for him. And you can manipulate yourself into an unhealthy relationship. Congratulations, right? Or we see women who are painted as only physical, as only sexual. And we're going to get to a very fun area of that in a second. But the misuse part of it, where it feels two-dimensional and like all it's for, and I'm going to explain why this happens to some extent in a second, hurts. It feels like a violation even when we weren't actually violated. Yes? And so many women come to me and they explain the emotions of a woman who's been violated and they can't figure out where it's coming from. It's because all of culture, much of the time, is a violation, right? And then when you try to unpack why this is happening, you get people who tell you things like this. Well, of course it's a sexual culture, that's what girls are for. Well, of course it's, it's all over the media. Like, it's what people like. Oh, but make sure that, you don't ever cause problems for people, but it is something that they want. So you are obligated to give it, but make sure you're not the problem. It's literally a no-win situation for women when it's misunderstood this way. And to be honest, it's a no-win situation for men as well, but people don't talk about that yet, and I'm going to. Okay, no one wins. No one wins in the false design for sexuality. Okay? But what about abuse? What about when, in a moment where either you had no say or no desire, or even maybe no awareness, God forbid, or you did, but it was tricky and you were confused and you felt pressured and you were trying to have fun, but then suddenly it got to a position where physically it was out of your control what was happening. And what you wanted was completely trampled upon. Right? And so in the moment when, by design, as we'll get into in a second, a woman's body is supposed to be able to open to the deepest level of receiving that is physically possible, right? There are spiritual ways that are deeper, but physically this is as deep as it gets. And you're right to allow whether or not you wanted to receive was taken, right? Now there's so much trickiness in this area, because there's a part of women when they're healed, and even before they are, that craves, okay, everybody chill out. If you can't handle, hold your ears, domination from a masculine, right? That longs for that, okay? I've been in enough girl circles at this point. It's a fact. And in fact, I need to find the study so I can show it up and prove to you guys that this is backed. But I think it was around feminists. The secret sexual desire of feminists was to be dominated by a man. It was very funny, in my opinion, right? Because it runs counter to the anger at the misuse. So if we're incomplete in our understanding of design, it doesn't make sense. Well, do you want to be left alone as a sign of respect, or do you want to be completely conquered? Like, peck, woman. And she might not even know in herself what she does want, because she has this longing, but it feels dirty, or she's aching for this, but it's been misused that way in the past. So why is she even wanting something that was hurtful? Right? It doesn't make sense. And this is how we get into webs of lies that then make us completely shut down, because the whole freaking thing is too confusing. Okay? Now, one more lie, and then it's going to get a little bit better, okay? And if you guys have things you want to write in, you want me to address, feel free. I don't usually do that, okay? But in this area, for today's training, go for it. In fact, it's fun, because after this, I'm about to get on the call that I do for this coaching group, like the client's call. Where we do talk about all the things, and everything is feedback and questions. So you guys get a little bit of a taste of that today, okay? So the last piece is my favorite. It's not supposed to be fun for you. Whoops. Fun for you. Okay? Just cut to the point. Which kind of plays on other lies. It's for him. Yes, it's for him. Like, it's it's a tool, sweetheart. It's how you keep him happy. It's how you keep him from, cheating with the secretary. It's a tool. It's not supposed to be fun for you. Just fake it. They'll never know. They never do, right? And what does that do? My God, does it add to resentment? Then you're literally, and no judgment, okay? Because I completely understand how many women have no idea how to make it fun, so they don't seem to have any other options, right? They either have to force themselves to do it, or they just tell them, no, sorry, better luck next decade, right? Next year. I talk to a lot of women where it is multiple years, right? So if it's not supposed to be fun for you, why would you want to do it? Well, you do it as a tool, you do it with resentment if you do it at all, or you just simply don't do it at all, right? And so frequently, culture doesn't really care if you're not enjoying it. So sorry to say that, but I think you already know, right? They don't particularly care. As long as he's happy and you look sexy, we're good. But not so sexy that you cause problems, right? Remember, like, the impossible goal. So for many women, it's like, you know what? Why? Why would I even do this? I just, you know what? Forget it. It's too complicated. It's miserable. I never arrive. Okay. I never get there. He doesn't care. Or if he does, he's given up because he can't figure it out either. So I'm either going to avoid this as much as I can. I'm going to use it as a manipulation tool for whatever my next purpose is. Again, no judgment, right? Like, it's a mess. And then we really believe this. Because if it's not fun for us, and maybe all of our cultures have said, well, yeah, it is for him. So, don't expect it to be fun for you. It's not for you. It's like, it's something that you do as part of your service to him. Then can you imagine the deep well of hurt and of anger and of sadness, of grief is really what it should be. And many women don't feel that. Okay. It's deeply buried underneath more evident symptoms like anger, resentment, bitterness, denial, closed offness. But it's this grief, because this isn't design. Not even close. Not even close. Which, if any of this has felt familiar to you, should be like the hearkening of the Christmas bells in the distance, where it's like you're despondent, disappointed, disillusioned, discouraged, and then you think you maybe hear something, but it's so far away you can't tell. Does it really exist? Or are you just making things up? Wishful thinking. You're not making things up. Oh my God, I can feel the chills, right? You're remembering your divine design. And it's like it's calling out to you that it's not supposed to be like this. It never was. And you, believe it or not, have the power to reclaim it and realign it into what it was meant to be all along. That does not mean it will not be without a battle. That does not mean the road will be smooth. That does not mean that the journey will not be fraught with difficulty and many other things, but it's possible. It's so worth it. So what if, instead of this mess, we look over the cliff? Here's our stick figure, and we're ladies, okay? We have a skirt. So good at drawing, right? Come on, guys, you know it. Art school, here I come. Okay, sex is for you. That fact alone, I have had the honor of changing so many women's lives just because I'm the first person they hear that from, which is pathetic. Pathetic. And they often usually they can't even conceive of what that means, let alone looks like. Like, sex is for me. So what does that mean? Does that mean I have the right to say no then because my opinion matters and I don't want to have it? I mean, you always have the right to say no, of course, but no, that's not what I'm getting to. The reality is that this is an area of your life that God designed for you to enjoy every bit as much as men. And not even so that he's even happier because he can see that you're enjoying it. No. That's fine. It's a side effect though. It's the fruit of divine design through which God gave sex as a gift for women every bit as much as he did for men, okay? Now, in the first module of the O class, where are my O class babes? Module 1 is like, every time I release that course, right? And I can see who's logging in, as in I send it to someone who's just purchased. It's like It's like releasing the lioness from her cage. Okay. I know that's what's happening. And I'm like, I kind of check my watch and start the countdown to when am I going to get the text, the Vox, the Instagram audio, the whatever, where it's like, what? Why did no one tell me this? This changes everything. I've never heard this before. Module 1. I swear, it's all it takes. Right. And then, of course, we have to kind of unpack the how, but just the reality of all of the evidence. Again, I build premises for different people with different belief systems, right? So biblically, it's there. Scientifically, medically, it's there. Okay. Culturally, it's not. And that's what we have to fix. But that this is a massive benefit for you. And right then, it's like the first time a woman hears this, she's like, okay, yeah, sure. Like I can see how it would improve my relationship. Therefore, it's for me because what I value is the relationship. How many times have you heard that BS at a relationship conference? He needs the physical touch. She needs the connection and conversation. Girlfriend just needs to get off, okay? But she doesn't even know that yet, nor does she know how. That's probably what she needs. And that will solve a host of problems in the relationship. But so many women, they come and they're like, yeah, okay, I get it. It's for me in that it will improve our bond. Yeah, it will. It's going to be great. Among many other things. But girl, it's for you, right? And then I get to go through all of the beautiful studies around what it does for female immunity, for cancer risk, for inflammation, for cortisol levels, for pain, for stress levels, for, oh my gosh, I mean, this isn't as important as those, but for your skin, it's phenomenal for your skin, okay? For your ability to sleep well at night, for lowering any pain you're feeling in your body all the way down to 0, okay? That's been scientifically shown. All of this, notably, doesn't have anything to do with him. And that's just like the physical, medical, scientific. And it's only part of them. I can never remember all of them. I have to look at all my lists. There's so many, literally, okay? What about emotionally? What about, I mean, seriously, I describe this to women as like living on a different planet. Because that's really how it feels. What if you go through the whole messed up world no longer buying into the illusion that your body or sex at all is for men, is an experience for men, is only pleasurable for men, is something that men enjoy and you kind of have to just tolerate. Just like pause, right? What would it be like to go through the world knowing how much you matter to God? It's really one of the biggest things that it heals, right? Because so many women come to me and they're good girls. And I say that with affection and admiration and respect, right? But they were told to serve others because they want to love God, they want to serve God, etc. But part of them is slightly heartbroken that when God designed, right? Because this is inaccurate, when they came to believe that this was design, that, I mean, you don't have to believe in God even to follow this line of reasoning. The divine, the universe, whatever the heck you want to call it, I give credit to who's it's due. It, like that God would not care about women, right? That he would create this act that is so seemingly, and sometimes in reality, harmful, hurtful, painful, damaging, life-ruining, some women would consider it, to women. And the guy just zips it up and walks away. Does God not love us? Right? So whether that's been acknowledged or is even something the woman is conscious of, there's almost always subconscious theology that is formed around that. Like, does God even care about me as a physical female? Yes. And then if they are able to receive that, if that kind of clicks in, maybe through they had decent teaching growing up, then when they see the extremely sexualized world, much of which culture portrays as being led by men in this area, it forms a different wound. So maybe the God wound isn't there, although usually it still is to some extent. But now there's a wound toward the masculine, right? Like, and it's funny, okay? Because if a woman has not stepped into actual full truth, but she's in like a half truth where it's like, well, God isn't trying to hurt me. It's just that this is precious and this is sacred and this is, you know, hopefully she's not in the idea that it's a gift or it's a present, but whatever. Like it's something that is priceless, and God has given, you know, us this incredible, beautiful thing to steward, which is our body and our sexuality as a woman, etc. Okay, fine, fair, agreed. But then we almost, to comprehend it that way, start to see God as this extremely whitewashed, almost, you know, prudishly proper Santa Claus looking old man with kind of no dominion over the animalistic and the sexual and everything else that is the human experience in this area. So then we start looking around and saying, okay, well, you know, I can see that in the world, this is animalistic and all of these things. Some of it's wrong, some of it's out of design, some of it's accurate, but we see it mixed up with things that are out of design. So we kind of just throw the baby out with the bathwater. So if God is clean and God loves me and God is, you know, given me something beautiful to steward, then clearly the perpetrator in this area is men. I only laugh because I know it's so untrue, right? I have been in women's groups where you would think that the male gender is like the demon infested one, you know, like it just the disdain, disgust, dislike, disappointment, and blame that is inflicted on men as the reason that there are any issues around this topic in the world is intense. Okay. So it's like, you guys can see almost there's two groups of lies, like speaking, I don't have any more room under my lie section, but there's like the God isn't willing to protect me lie. And then God's willing to protect me, but he's a little impotent in this area. He's not in dominion over the sexual mess that is here on earth. And so men are clearly the problem, which brings us right back to sex is for men. It's your duty. He needs it, but don't be a stumbling block. Feel free to feel resentful just as long as you still perform. But you can use it as a manipulation tool if you need him to like do more chores around the house. You know, like it's the wreck, which so often can grow, horrifically enough, into a mountain of anger and ill will toward your spouse, your partner, whatever, that can even start to get into these areas where he's like, just freaking take it. Or she, you know, completely shuts off as a woman. Okay? It's ugly. It's ugly, ugly, ugly. So if we instead decide it's for you, and this one is one of my favorites. I haven't really articulated it this way before. God has dominion over it all. Over it all. Okay? He doesn't cover his eyes when a married couple's having sex. Okay? Or even unmarried. There is nothing on this earth that he doesn't have ownership and dominion of. That doesn't mean it's all in alignment with his design. But this is not an area that God does not command. And I understand completely, if you've been through something horrific and traumatic, it can be very difficult to rectify. How did that happen? How did God allow that to happen? How could someone who's, you know, out parading happily in his life now, who harmed me horrifically, you know, no, not me, thank God, but just hypothetically, said woman, still dealing with it 2 decades, 3 decades later. And he's feted and making tons of money and has the perfect family. Why, God? Why didn't you protect me? Right? I'm not saying that awful things don't happen. I'm saying it doesn't mean that God has lost control over this area, or he has forfeited this area. Not at all. But in my opinion, I wouldn't say he's waiting, because that implies a passivity that is not of God, in my opinion. But he has given us an ability that we often don't recognize and certainly rarely take advantage of, largely because we don't know it exists or is an option, because we're believing all of this too much. That in the same way, if you were on the Paris Reveal training, that he created everything, including us, and set us over to master and rule it. I'm getting a lot into my worldview here, guys, but it can't be helped. You're asking me to tell you the truth, okay? We have the ability to master and rule it, right? Rule over the earth and subdue it. Now, a lot of people in church will be like, that means don't have any. Don't think about it. Subdue your desires. Like, I don't think that's design. But anyway, 3, you were made to master. Master. Oh, I get so pumped up about this stuff, you guys. In fact, let me take a sip of water. How many of you, in some way or another, have encountered the misunderstanding that as a woman, you have 2 choices? Oh, can I? Oh, you guys want to watch me demonstrate this? Watch this. Huh. Somebody's going to get offended, but you know what? That's why we're here. I'm comfortable with it now. Okay. How many of you have had the idea passed on, presented, whispered behind closed doors of older female family members or sorority sisters or, church group girls, not actually said at the Bible study, but said behind closed doors when it's your like pseudo super squeaky clean bachelorette party, like all that kind of stuff. That there's this choice as a woman. Essentially, it's this choice. Is it going to be for him and you're in resentment and duty? Or is it going to be something that you use and manipulate as, a seductress, essentially, right? Are you a bad girl or a good girl? How many of you have been given that dichotomy? The Madonna or the okay? Yes, you know the other word, right? Now, what many women find quite fascinating is that when they step into authentic design, that God is for you, God is for you, sex is for you, God has dominion over it all, you were made to master this area, which I'm not done with yet, okay, we're getting there. And she starts to step into ownership of her sexuality, of this incredible divine design in this area. People start making stuff up that's not very nice and not even true, right? Many women have come and told me that this is one of their experiences, which I'm prepared to help them handle, okay? A lot of people are so, and it's not even just really about the area of sex, but for many it can be, they're so twisted and warped and entrenched in a cultural version of truth, which is not true, that when they encounter divine design in a woman who has mastered her many facets, including sex, they kind of can't handle it, right? And so they start to make things up about her or about, reality about life in order to essentially end the cognitive dissonance that they're experiencing and sink back into the cultural miasma in which they're comfortable because she's just rocked the boat a little too much for them and they're a little bit scared because they don't know that it's safe. But we're going to get there in a second. Okay? So you may have been told that you're either a good girl. I love this thing. Isn't this beautiful? The light reflects through it. It's magnificent. Now, nobody get all offended about brands and stuff, okay? Again, I'm not supporting the entirety of every company known to man, okay? It's just a concept. Chill out. Or you're a dirty girl, or you're a bad girl, or you're a sexual girl, right? You're good or you're hot. And every man secretly wants to find a good girl who's also hot and has a great drive. But they've kind of been told it doesn't exist, right? Little do they know how many bombshells are actually out there. Okay. So if God is in charge of all of this, and he told his women and his men, but we're focusing on the women here today, to go out and master his creation, and he created sex, then if A equals B and B equals C, it seems to me that A equals C. And I remember when I first had this revelation that it's not an area that God actually ever wanted us to hide from. And if all of that entire premise doesn't float your boat, fine. then medically, scientifically, it does not serve anyone for women to not step into mastery in this area, right? It just doesn't. We went through the whole list of how it serves women. I can go through an even longer list of how it serves men, and not even just in the cultural bravado of, oh, because, you know, they're happy or they like it, they whatever. Their health, okay? Like it's designed to be a synergy that solves so many problems, okay? Physical, emotional, mental, and otherwise in everyday life. It's magnificent. It could only have been designed by God, in my opinion, right? But the idea that we're not supposed to just tolerate this as a woman, we're actually called to be able to master it, can boggle some minds. Yes? And again, like I promised you guys, it's going to be a bit of a flow through the loops. This often sends people back into kind of a tizzy of, okay, you know, sexual mastery for a woman means she has all of these great techniques or something, right? Back to for him. When I talk about in complete kind of piecemeal conversations, what I do, many people are like, oh, wow, so you know all of the tricks. No, actually, I don't. I know how to heal the female heart and mind in this area and then release her as the lioness she already is, and the rest falls into place and the couple can teach each other, right? Really, that's basically a huge part of my philosophy. Are there some little things? Sure. But the primary piece is all of this internal work, which is why I'm so excited to be able to now do this with women who are not yet in a relationship, because this work can be done on your own. Because like I said at the beginning, my whole goal is if I can only affect the woman, how much transformation can I create in the male and female dynamic? That's my goal, right? So she can do this work before she's actually even with anybody, which is one of the most empowering realizations you can have. You're not even waiting for somebody to be able to step into mastery. And let me tell you, stepping into mastery in this area tends to call them in, okay? I'm just saying, you don't even have to be doing anything, just being in the energy of healing and of accurate truth. Can you imagine? Imagine two women, two different energies. One, convinced sex is for men. She's the problem. Her body is bad, but it's also her duty, so she's got to stay hot because it's preventative. Huge resentment, but then it's a manipulation tool if she needs to get something that she wants every now and then. She's been through kinds of crazy things. She knows it's not really supposed to be fun for her, but she's going to put on the dress, she's going to show up for the date, and she's going to hope that he likes her so that she can manipulate him into a relationship where she can then have resentment. Or the woman who knows sex is for her. And it was the whole time. That God has dominion over it, and he gave it to her as part of his creation to rule and master. Do you even need to say any more than that? Can you imagine a woman who walks into the room in that energy? She owns it instantly, because so few women know this. And even fewer, if they kind of have the idea that maybe that's true, like that call they heard in the distance, know how to tangibly step into living it out. One of the things I find fascinating, and has happened over the last maybe 2 years or so, is that when women encounter me in my energy now, and even before, but now is at a whole nother level, they sense a security and a confidence. And they want to know where it comes from, right? They want to know, what are my mindset tricks that allow me to feel so secure and grounded in myself in a way that seems to be different from even the other quote unquote confident people that they know, right? And sometimes I'm able to, right? We're in a private place and someone I already know or something where it's like, well, actually, but it's a huge part of that. It's like identity in Christ first for me, and then identity as an embodied woman, because basically that is step 1 of creation, step 2 of creation, which gender, right? And then from there, personality and calling and talents, etc. But this is so integral to being a human here on earth that if you don't understand it, you're going to be flapping in the wind, trying to be in various kinds of relationships, and none of them really work out. And so then it becomes like this area of tension, but you're not even sure what it's supposed to look like. So you just kind of avoid it. And then you go with the cultural, kind of waves of guys who make a bunch of jokes about women and watch porn or whatever, and women who gain a bunch of weight and try to avoid having to get together with their husband, right? You'll find the current to go down if you want the cultural norms, because they are massive. But if you stand in this, notably, look how short this is. Look how short this is. And this is like, oh, we didn't even, touch the tip of the iceberg here. Truth is narrow, specific, accurate, concise, finite. And when you're in the energy of accuracy, when you're embodying truth, people don't even know what they're looking at, but they know they're looking at something. And they know that it's very, very rare. And then they try to figure it out based on their partial understandings of what, people need or makes people attractive, or, oh, it must be the way she does her hair, or, whatever. No. It's standing in mastery in one of the most integral parts of being a human being. Okay? I'm going to give you one more truth, and then we're going to move into safety. And this one is tender, right? It's a little hard to believe sometimes, especially if you've been through the ringer with this pile of junk. And it touches a little bit into masculine and feminine design and interactions and dynamics, which if you guys are already in the ultimate Bombshell bundle for Black Friday, I'm so excited for how many of you are jumping into that. We're going to be talking about in feminine mastery next year. But it's very important in the context of this conversation because it creates two things, okay? It creates one. It helps with another, okay? Where'd I put my red marker? Who knows? I'll write in black. Maybe it's meant to stand out, unless I put it on the bottom. Nope, I don't know where it went, guys. And this is, I'll explain it to you this way first, actually. This is so important because when I teach women this, they feel like they've been set free from a trap and a lie. I'm kind of still looking for my marker, guys, not gonna lie. There it is. Oh well, get it in a minute. That they have been in their whole lives. And as is often the case when we're coming out of one lie, or many, or one breed of lies, one line of lies, if you will, and we're not yet anchored in truth and design, we frequently take the partial bit of the truth that makes us feel so much better, and we run to something that's less of a lie, but still not completely design, right? And the specific example I'm thinking of in this case is women who understand that sex is for them, who come to understand that God has given you, made them to master it, and they somehow turn it into this, I don't love the word feminist because it's so often misused, but we'll call it man-hating war cry, right? And you'll see this a lot. Do you guys see this, right? Because I went through some horrific things, and as I was going through them, you might have been thinking, well, there's charities and there's movements and there's hashtags and there's community groups and all these things to teach people that this isn't the truth, that she needs to be empowered and she needs to be respected and he needs to take accountability for what he does and she's not the problem. And yet, preventing women from getting themselves in situations where they can't control the outcome, even if he shouldn't behave that way. That's a passion of mine. Agreed, it was awful. However, control what you can control, yes? And sometimes you cannot control anything. So still no blame, but savvy and wisdom and protection. So they come out of this and they're just angry. And what they think that is true, which is just a different version of a lie, is we're better than men, right? Men are these grotesque animals and we know the truth. Respect us, right? Prioritize us. Learn to please us. It's us. Which is fascinating. Please hear this. It could change your life. Hopefully the rest of this will too. Even that argument, demanding essentially that he learn to please you, that he prioritize you, still puts the power where? With him. Right? It's like we're turning to this list and saying, I don't want to resent you, therefore do what I say, but it's still in his control. Yeah? So that's one way it can go wrong. Or they, raise their wrists and they're pro-female and pro-woman and blah, 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 blah. Not that any of that's even necessarily wrong. Again, so many truths mixed in with lies. It takes hours to parse these things out. That's why this is a whole course and not just a mini class like today, right? Then they say, well, I don't even need men anyway. Right? I've got my battery operated friends. You can just leave. Right? You're just a pain. You don't even know what you're doing anyway. And I try to teach you, you still don't know, right? Like it turns into this, because sex was also made for women, we therefore don't need or want men. And that's not design either. Not even close. No design is going to cut out half of the population, ladies. Ever. Ever. So the beautiful truth that is harder to receive because it requires an emotional opening. These truths you can feel in that empowered, sometimes almost angry state, which is not accuracy, but you can think that you're stepping into truth and you might be getting closer, but it's not an energy of anger that we're getting into. It's an energy of transcendence, of arising. We're going higher. We're not fighting harder. Okay. Literally, it's higher, not harder. We're not getting angry. We're getting ascended. That's the whole point of this training series. Yes. We're going up above the BS, up above the lies. We're not just picking a new one. We're literally lifting ourselves and hopefully as many people who will come with us above all of that. And the piece here that makes this design beautiful, but is often even harder to believe after we may have been through a lot of this than these, which I can usually bring out in a woman pretty fast, right? That's why module 1 is such a killer in a good way. Is this, you guys want it in black or you want it in red? Let's do this one in black because I want it to be different from the others. How do I even phrase this in a way that you can receive with accuracy? Men were made, thank God, to love their woman. That's singular, okay? Men were made to love their woman. Isn't that beautiful? Now, notably, it's singular. I could have written, men were made to love women. And we may have accidentally tripped over semantics and fallen right back into, yeah, of course they are. That's why there's strip clubs and porn and, they're always flirting with someone who's not even their wife or whatever, right? All of the pain and the lies that we may have seen, all of the misuse, the misunderstandings. But that's not divine design either. Right? And although I don't have time, we're already almost well over an hour here, to get into it today, when a man is in sexual mastery and when a woman is in sexual mastery, it is explosive, right? If you guys saw the funny little reel I made advertising this, the song, you guys heard the song, it was playing at the beginning of this training. It's hilarious. It's a great song. It's fun, but the lyrics really make me chuckle at the end, okay? And it's basically a very powerful man and a very powerful woman who are very attracted to each other and in a great relationship, yes? But the point is they're both very focused on their goals, and yet they're also extremely attracted to each other. So he's saying at the end, you do you, I'll do me. But when we come together, it's a problem, right? And it's kind of laughing because it's not a problem, it's fantastic, but it's going to be difficult to get back on task afterward. So when a man is in sexual mastery and a woman is in sexual mastery, it is It's so explosive in my mind. It is literally transcendent. It's spiritual. It's like it's the kind of thing that shifts the energy of the world. Okay. For some of you, this is going a little too deep, a little too heavy. That's okay. Take a deep breath, hang in there. Okay. Because this, in my mind, okay, in my opinion, is how Satan, okay, these are my beliefs, evil, misunderstanding, whatever you want to call it, bad vibes, okay, is keeping people from the destiny and even from the ability to positively impact the world through just the energy that is created from loving, caring, life-giving, affirming, ecstatic, romantic, sexual partnerships for life, right? That's like, that shifts Earth. That breaks down evil in major ways. So if we can be in any way prevented from that, evil's going to try to do it. Okay? Because when it's in alignment, it's insanely powerful. So when you see men who are in one of the symptoms of sexual shame, which I promised you I would go to, which just like body shame, okay? Anytime we feel insufficient, inadequate, out of alignment even with design, like we know things are off, and the feeling of knowing that they're off is so miserable to be in that we default to a different emotion that feels a little more empowering, right? So you can think of it as in your body if you want, but for the purposes of this, denial, pretending this area doesn't, even need any kind of, it's not important, it's frivolous, it's just, it's a guy thing. Avoidance, pretending it doesn't exist whatsoever, right? The number of women I've talked to who just don't even want to use the word sex, right? Like, no, it's like, we exist because of it, but we're not going to acknowledge that it's a thing. Okay, that's cool. I don't know how the heck you got here, but anyway, right? Or anger, resentment, bitterness, bravado is a big one, especially with men, but also with women. How many of you have seen like some of the props for bachelorette parties that they sell at party stores, and you're just like, I don't like degrading women. I don't like degrading men either, It's a mess, right? And some of it's fine, some of it's just fun, but other things, it's like, that feels disrespectful to the full beautiful design of a man, which includes his sexuality for sure, but is a lot more, right? So bravado in sex is a huge way of kind of someone trying to sidestep the shame of knowing full well that they're not living out sexual mastery, not even close, right? In fact, it's often a hallmark of especially men, but often women too, who are not in a happy relationship, are not in any kind of relationship, are, woefully underloved. And so they make themselves feel cool by making jokes about things that, are outside of the scope of mastery and are not something that they're personally experiencing either. Okay. So I didn't use the plural because I don't want you to fall into any of that lie. Because a man who's in sexual mastery, a man who's in divine design, you might not believe me, but it's true. I know you're probably going to try to wave some studies at me, but I'm going to wave other studies right back at you. Is most satisfied with the woman he loves. Now, we are talking about an ideal design, right? And many men love the woman they're with deeply. Other men are not with the woman they love, and I don't know what to tell them. Like if you're married, then, love the one you're with, as they say. But if you're not, WTF, it's kind of funny to me and sad. But they only want the woman they love to be her fullest self. And many times, sometimes life hits hard. There's an illness, there's a disability, there's something. And it's beautiful to watch couples love each other so well through that. But what I see much more frequently is she and he, okay, but I'm thinking about the woman only right now, is out of alignment with design in other areas too, right? Namely body care. It's a huge one, right? She's put on a lot of extra weight. Now her joints hurt. Now her sexual hormones are off. Things are dry. Therefore, it hurts She's maybe more fatigued. She has more headaches. She's more irritable, whatever it is, right? Just a host of health issues that can come from falling out of alignment with what her body needs. And she may have never known. She may have never been told, or it may have shifted, and she needs to see someone who can help her figure out what it needs now, right? But what I want to focus on, and I'm going to get back to that in a second actually, is when men come to me and they love the woman that they're with, but this degree of sexual mastery ain't happening, right? Or maybe it's okay, but it's a body mastery issue, or it's her heart is closed off or something. Out of the insecurities and wounds that come from the panoply of lies that we go through, like a lifetime buffet of just being served all of this BS for decades, a woman can often come to believe that the man that she's with, that she loves, who she was once loved by in her mind, doesn't want her anymore because things have dropped off, right? They're not intimate as much as they used to be. She's gained a bunch of weight, so is he. He doesn't seem to be trying. But when I talk to those men, what that woman probably expects them to, tell me is that they're like just done with this chick, right? And if there's toxicity and she's horrifically, emotionally cruel or something, sometimes I do hear things like that. Like he just, something's got to change. But when everything else is going fine, they really do love each other. What he wants is not a different woman. He wants her. He just wants her in her divine design, right? Which feels a lot better than he no longer wants you. He wishes he were with someone else. No. He wants you being yourself, really, right? Now, the second layer of hurt there can be, he doesn't, I'm not good enough anymore. Yes, he loves me, but I no longer measure up. Or what's happening there is the woman is pairing or hitching, connecting her identity to her current state of stewardship, essentially, whether it's body stewardship or sexual stewardship or whatever, right? She's self-identifying as how and who she is showing up in the world right now. She's literally self-identifying as 50, 100 pounds overweight, as unable to enjoy vaginal intercourse because everything hurts too much and so they just don't anymore, as feeling unattractive, as aging. She's identifying as that. So what she's hearing when maybe she's able to receive the beautiful truth that no, he doesn't want to be with another woman, he wants to be with you, but he wants to be with you in mastery. Yes, in alignment with your design. Right? She's almost seeing that as some kind of made up, fictitious, almost other woman, even though it's actually just her, when what she really has to have the awareness of is it's actually you. It's the real you that's waiting to come out. It's a remembrance of course I was put here to master this. Of course I can master my body. No one would know my body better than me. Of course. This area is one that God has dominion over and he's given to me to rule over and master, right? It's not an other than and you're no longer good enough. It's a call back to who you actually are, right? And again, if you were in the Paris Reveal training, that's the masculine mirror that can hurt so much to look into, but is hecka accurate, especially if it's the man who loves you, because he is naturally drawn to you at your best, which is not some other than that you're no longer good enough or can't obtain. That's not an insult. It's a calling to who you actually are. Right? And like I've said in other trainings, take him, put him in a parachute, give him a picnic basket, drop him off the cliff. It's you. He'll be fine. Okay. He's not going to die. He's got a parachute. It's you remembering that this was for you all along. So when you go through these, sex is for you, God has dominion over it, you were made to master it. And then you get to this one, which is so sweet, because we're not just stepping into like angry lioness energy of I am woman, hear me roar, I matter, my needs matter, you will please me, you will serve me. No, it's here it is. It's a mutual mastery. Because he at his highest and best design was made to love you. Now, how do we learn to receive that? And how do our bodies play a role? Right? I told you guys we were going to get into all of this. this is where the beauty of safety comes in. Okay? I love safety. I don't just love feeling safe and being safe. I love the concept of safety and what it allows for us to step into when we're at that cliff, hanging between lies and looking into truth. Like, can I really do this? Some of you, when you were watching some of the earlier trainings in this series, some sent me messages saying, I feel like, can I actually do this? Yes, you can do this. And this is what allows you to feel the reality that you can do this, to then make the decision to step into it. Okay? How do we create safety? Whew! How do we create safety? Building identity. Oh Lord, how am I going to spell this, Father? Sovereignty. I don't think that's spelled right, but I think you know what I'm saying. God is a sovereign. I didn't even want the TY. God is a sovereign rock. Okay? How many of you know that even at your best, you're still not infallible? Even at your best, somebody can come by and take you out, right? But we've established that God is not this weak little prudish, whitewashed Santa Claus. He has dominion over the most messy, animalistic, human parts of being an embodied person. So the first thing we do to remember safety is we anchor ourselves actually not in our identity, but in his identity, which then allows our identity as a next step to be accurate. So many women, often because of what they've experienced coming at them, at their physical female body, right? I mean, it's one thing for somebody to say something mean, but when you exist in this physical shell of being a female and then suddenly it's at risk of harm and you don't seem to be able to do anything about it, the whole world feels unsafe. And for many women, that then throws into question, is God trustworthy? Is God there? Does God care? Does he actually have power? Like, what the heck? Right? So the first step in rebuilding safety is rebuilding our theology around God to be accurate. Thank God. Thank God this is true. Or whatever. I mean, if you don't believe in God, to be honest, I wish you luck. I don't, there has to be some kind of higher being that doesn't fail even when you fail to cling to. Or how do you build? How do you build? It's all just sand and people who suddenly are showing you their two-facedness, and it's all unstable. You need a rock. And I know of no human rock except Jesus, right? I've never met a person who's sufficiently stable and safe. Like, there's very good ones who I do trust and all the things, but they're still humans. Even if they want to be able to help, they can't always. You have to be able to build on something that is not shakable. Okay? Men are good. Men are good. So good. They long to be good. They want to be good. They're designed to be good. They're capable of being good. In their highest and best evolution, they're phenomenal. And I know that after maybe living through or seeing in other people's lives many of these things, that can be a very difficult belief to process. But it's true. Okay? You are loved. I promise this is not just a list of platitudes. I've got a really practical tip for you in a second. But this is really where this comes from, right? If we believe that men are basically animals in a human body who are forced by culture to behave in moderately civilized ways, it can feel like we're not really loved. We're just there as an object. And when we get too old or we're not, sexually available, we're not attractive, everything's thrown into question, right? Many women will if they're hurt enough, want to argue with me on the truth of this. And I'll go toe to toe because I know I'm right. Right? And I have all of the evidence. And then they'll break into tears because they know that it's true and they want it to be true. But so many layers of pain have covered their ability to receive this as true. Yes? Oh, do I want to write this next one? Let's do it like this. I want to make sure my words are accurate so that no one misunderstands what I'm saying. You are a sexual master. Okay? Because and I wish I used to wear a lot of fake rings. I barely wear any jewelry at all anymore. I used to have one in this office, and I don't know where I went, friends. I like rings with like the halos. Yeah, they're all fake, but all the like one big pretend jewel surrounded by smaller pretend jewels. I wish that I had one to show you, but alas, they're buried. Well, you'll just have to go with me. In fact, I'll sketch it for you. Imagine you've got a beautiful ring. Let's do it down here. Let's do it in purple. Let's do it in another color so it stands out. Again, my excellent drawing skills. You can thank me later. Okay, it's going to be round because let's not get fancy. And then all the little baby diamonds or whatever, right? Baby cubic zirconia. Okay? And it's all shiny. You get the point, right? Maybe it looks like a flower. I don't know what to say, guys. But the idea is, do you remember in the Paris Reveal? If you haven't watched it, go watch it. It's kind of a foundational philosophy of being a multifaceted woman, right? Of having all of these mirrors and all of these sides of yourself and not locking into one identity or a few identities where you feel safe and forfeiting the mastery that is your birthright in the other areas, right? Well, look at it like this. The whole thing is a woman, right? But there's all of these little areas. So you can consider these little areas like body care and sexual mastery and beauty mastery and mastery with men and mastery of finances and mastery with children or, whatever. And every single one of those is a little jewel with multiple facets too, but different angles, right? So one of the most difficult things for women to understand in specifically the area of sexual mastery is that it's tout à la fois, right? I hope that that's the correct phrase. All at the same time. It's like I was saying, we get caught into one belief or another. And even we can get caught into this like fake empowerment of I am woman and I don't need you and I matter more and blah, blah, blah. No. So then we feel like, but if I'm to be sexually empowered, why is it that when I'm with the man I love, all I want to do in a good way, right? Like when it's all working well, is just completely surrender, right? If I'm such a master and such a sexual, badass, basically, why is it that I just want to be like taken, Why is it that surrender and softness and even submission in that context are so appealing to so many women, right? Or at least at certain times. Because it is in and of itself. Sexual mastery is multifaceted too. Feminine mastery is multifaceted in that you've got sexual and you've got body and you've got beauty and you've got men and you've got finance, you've got career, you've got calling, you've got children, right? And each of these little mini areas, body care, sexual mastery, beauty, is multifaceted in and of itself. There's the powerful side. There's the surrendered side. There's the soft side. There's the servant side. There's the, a little more edgy side, right? There's all of the things. You're not getting it wrong or not stepping into your power because today you feel surrendered. I would be concerned if you didn't ever feel that way. We'd have more work to do, right? So safety in this particular truth is in part understanding that this aspect of yourself is multifaceted too. Okay? And in being multifaceted, it inevitably will start to bring in other aspects that it's almost like the facets start to reflect on each other, right? So body care plays a huge role in sexual mastery at some point. It almost can't be avoided at some point. You can get a long way without it, but if you're really looking to ascend to the highest levels, body care is going to have to play in. Whether or not you're still actively battling a beauty wound, big part of this, right? Whether or not there's a lack of safety, truly safety, emotional safety, physical safety in your relationship, that's a factor, right? It's very difficult to surrender to a man who is willing to harm you, right? There's many pieces in this. But you're building on all of this. And then the final piece of safety. Back to black here. Sounds like the song. Okay. Do I dare to write this on YouTube? Yeah, why not, huh? It's orgasm. What? Safety? Yes. How many of you know that when you're, like we were saying at the beginning, you have a belief that's up here, and you know that it's true, you want it to be true, you're coming with me, Jackie, I know God is a sovereign rock and men are good and I am loved and I was born for sexual mastery and feminine mastery. Man, I just don't feel it. I hear you. I want to believe it. Help me to believe. I like, you know, it doesn't feel true, even though I know it's true and I want it to be true. How do I get it to feel true? And then even more, how do I, you know, I'll tell you in a minute. I didn't just realize something. How do I get it to drop in even more from my head where I'm knowing that it's true, thinking that it's true, wanting it to be true, to my heart where I really do actually believe it. And it's like, it's birthing and it's part of how I live now, to even lower. Okay. Embodying that this is reality. This is me. This is how we do. Okay. Right. It's not just, oh my gosh, I really do believe that. I can feel my heart opening and yeah, it's beautiful. And I just feel life and I feel feminine. Like a lot of women will start to feel that when they work with me. And that's beautiful. But what I really want is for you to feel it lower, where it's like, this is who you are. And the number one way that I know of that any woman can allow her body to instruct her mind to what she wants to believe, okay? Because just like over here, oh, guys, I love it when I teach and things come to me as I teach, and I wasn't planning on saying them because I didn't even really know them, and then they start coming out of my mouth. In the same way that a lie that has been experienced physically, right? You guys know, you may have heard the science, the studies behind the fact that memories of a situation that was emotionally, physically traumatic or intense, even if it's positive, right? Like your wedding day or whatever, the birth of your child, often stick more, right? There's also the side where we block them out, right? We check out, especially if they're negative, but even then they're often stored in the body, right? There's science for that too. But when we're not blocking it out, when it's positive or negative, like it's stored more deeply when it's a very intense experience, right? So if you're just casually strolling down the sidewalk with your friend, you're kind of scrolling through your phone and they're talking to you, and then they ask you later about what you were talking about and you kind of can't remember what they were saying, right? Versus the color of the swaddle that they wrapped your baby in. And the moment when you were, like in my second birth, moving from the toilet to the bed to give birth as fast as you possibly could, because it was very clear that suddenly the baby was coming, right? Like there's moments that are just drilled in there by the intensity of the situation, especially when there's some kind of physical sensation that's intense that's paired with it, right? Something that's just like, you'll never forget it. Emotionally, it was intense. Physically, it was intense. When that's happened through a lie, God forbid, there's some kind of misuse or abuse, or even just from having one of those awful moments when you're laying there doing your duty, wondering how the heck it's possible to feel so disempowered and violated in what is supposed to be a sacred marriage bed. right? When you have those moments where the physical experience is intense and it's negative, it anchors a belief more firmly into your heart and wires it literally into your brain. And that is the work we're actually doing. When people are like, oh, you teach techniques. No, I teach mindset rewiring techniques, essentially. Okay, that's life coaching in this area so that women no longer live in lies in this area. They live in truths in this area, and then they get to embody and live out from that truth. Okay, that's what I do. So, and yes, there's practicalities with that as well. Okay, and we're about to get into it in about 5 seconds here. So our work then is to figure out how can we more rapidly rewire what has been so firmly entrenched in the deepest physical feminine recesses of our body that most people don't even want to talk about or acknowledge is there, or maybe you've never even verbally shared that it happened or is happening, even if it's not that bad, it still sucks. How do we get to truth and to embodied truth, to truth lived out as quickly as we possibly can? Orgasm happens to be a shortcut. Happens to be a shortcut. It's one of the reasons why bonding with people or even with pornography through an intense experience can create bonds that get a little bit messy, right? That become difficult to break the soul tie because there is a chemical hormonal habit of associating a person or a screen or a thing or a set of behaviors with a very physical, intense high, right? So we're used to this being paired with unhealthy things. What if we paired it with truth? One of the things I teach my clients is to use this moment, which if often they have never experienced or achieved. First, we make it normal and non-negotiable to where, it's like clockwork, never an issue again. And then we start to expand into higher and better and more transcendent and mutual and simultaneous and all of the things. But one of the biggest and most beautiful things we get to do here is rewire beliefs in this moment. Okay, I know that some of you are like, what is she talking about? I'm talking about instead of in the moment when you are out of control, perhaps, God forbid, and all of these things are coming over you in your mind as you're in a situation perhaps where you're miserable, whether it's technically it's a happy marriage or it's an awful situation and everything's coming over you, that you're bad, that you're dirty, that your mother told you should never do this, that the church is going to kick you out, that like boom 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 boom. All of the lies are being anchored in an intense moment. This frankly is probably not even in the picture, but it's a different physical intensity. What if instead we reclaimed truth in our mind? Sometimes women will even want to say it verbally, and if they're with their husband and they're on this beautiful healing journey together, they'll say it together, and they'll be like affirming truth in a moment of incredible emotional and physical intensity. And I can't tell you how fast beliefs start to rewire when they do that. Now, some of you are like, isn't that wrong? Isn't that dirty? Shouldn't I not even be uttering the name of God at that moment? And I say, who created it? Who created it? So many times we have been through cultures that essentially make it sound like God created everything except this. And then how on earth are we supposed to master something if he doesn't even have dominion over it as its creator? But he did. And in some of the areas where women become incredibly empowered, again, in that extraordinary first module, we go into female anatomy and many of the things that we have not been told, okay, about ourselves. And the level of sexual equality with men that is built into the female system that no one is even told about, okay? And sometimes when I explain it fully, women, again, temporarily, accidentally step into superiority and say, oh my gosh, we're better than men sexually. No. We're equal, we're different, but we are equal. If you look at the medical studies, and I have them all in the course, and women have these like, it's like fire hose revelations, right? That actually, instead of men being these uncontrollable animals who are forced into civilization, when they remove women from the confines of civilization, they have the more voracious sexual appetite. I know, right? Underneath the birth control pill and antidepressants and whatever other hormonal creating weird imbalances in women and bad food and all these beliefs about men and sex, like no wonder we have no idea that that's in there. But it's in there. And especially when we look at female anatomy, that was God placed, God chosen, God designed, God blessed, God said very good. Now go master it. It's very difficult to still believe these cultural lies when you're staring in the face of your creator's design and it's embodied in you. And then when you learn how to master it and enjoy it, you get to shift beliefs very, very, very quickly. And then your next beautiful opportunity, some women step into it boldly, other women it's a little quieter behind the scenes, totally cool either way, is to share this liberating truth of sexual mastery with other women. Guys, there's so much for us that we forfeit, especially in this area. I mean, how many of you are any closer to believing these truths after these last almost 2 hours? That sex is for you, that God has dominion over it all, that you are made to be a sexual master, that your man was made to love you. Both of you ascending to mutual mastery. That God is a sovereign rock, that men are good, that you are loved, that you are a sexual master, and that there are beautifully built-in opportunities in the female anatomy that God gave no other functional purpose but to allow you to experience this. And through that, to break the bondage beliefs perpetuated by evil under the auspices of various cultures that have been keeping us trapped, hurting ourselves, hurting our daughters, hurting our husbands, hurting our sons for millennia. So the opportunity, not the anatomical one, we'll talk about that in the course. No need to get too graphic here, but you are equal to him, okay? Enough said. Is to step into mastery instead of forfeiting it. To not close your eyes and pretend that if you just bring your casserole to the small group gathering and your kids are sufficiently well behaved and you pick an outfit that shows you haven't gained 20 pounds and you act adorable and chipper and no one really notices that you and your husband are super tense, that then we don't even have to talk about sex because it doesn't matter because we're not addressing it. Yeah, he's got an addiction on the side, but he's seeing someone. It's okay. It's going to be fine. Bullshit. I'm here for mastery. Nothing less. Now, that doesn't mean in the mess of human beings and relationships that it's not a journey. But a journey is something that you continue to choose to be on, and you're headed in a direction toward a destination. It's not something you forfeit. Right? So, my prayer for you, wherever you're at, maybe that situation feels a little too close to home. Maybe you're single and you feel like you've got those two choices, the good girl, the bad girl. Don't tempt him because you want to be respected as more than that, or like every other chick who's out there looking like, she should have an hourly rate, but she doesn't, except the price of dinner, it's a manipulation tool. And what are you going to choose? Are you going to go compete with these women who seem to have no morals? Or are you going to pull back and claim that that area is dirty anyway? Or are you going to step into full-faceted feminine mastery and full-faceted sexual mastery as a sub area of feminine mastery, which includes body care, which includes beauty, all of the things. This is why when I was designing the incredible Bombshell bundle for Black Friday, I threw in everything, okay? Like all the things. And I was just thinking earlier today, how can I make this even better? You guys are already getting the Bombshell Body course, which is the facet of body care, of body mastery as a woman, okay? You're getting the O class, the original O class, and the 2.0, which will be released over the next few months, right? So sexual mastery. But a few other areas that we haven't gone too deep in are going to be in feminine mastery. That's beauty. Beauty wound will be in there, beauty signals, all of that. It's going to be intense. The masculine and feminine dynamics, right? Some of you have been asking me about polarity, which is, I think, is such a fascinating word. It's not one that I love, but I understand the concept. So we're going to get into the bigger picture of divine masculinity, divine femininity. Being an empowered feminine woman who handles her ish, takes no ish, and yet is open, surrendered, vulnerable, all of the things that are part of the beautiful, full-faceted woman, right? Doesn't mean you've given up or you've given in because you can surrender and go under and all the things I teach people to do, right? Like, no, that's part of it, okay? And you're also bold and empowered and you speak up and all of these things. It's the both and, but usually we're given these choices. But I was thinking, okay, what is not yet addressed in this package? You're also getting the mentorship. So you've got 12 months of high-level training around boundaries, around building financial independence, around dealing with, people who are less than healthy, right? All of the support. You're getting a one-on-one call with me each month. What else, right, could I possibly give you to help you? And I'm going to add 2 more bonuses. One is for those of you who feel stuck right here. Men are good will be dealt with in feminine mastery, a little bit the divine masculine, but you are loved, right? Some of you I know are in relationships where, as they say, you've lost that loving feeling, right? But more accurately, you've lost attraction, you've lost respect, you've lost trust. You feel like he's able to go after all of his dreams, but yours just don't seem to matter. The resentment is building up. You now know how to deal with it sexually, but the rest of the relationship is still not moving forward, even though now you feel very empowered and no longer violated in this area. Your confidence, your security, it's all growing, but what about the rest of the relationship and him, right? A long time ago, I created a course called the Romance Reset, which is in its concept, in its goal around rebuilding all of those things. But I take a completely different path than most people who are trying to help a couple get out of a difficult transition period, right? Or just a difficult period. And I think that's why it works so well, okay? Because just like I said at the beginning, what if I can only change you? What if I can only change the woman? You're the one who's watching, right? I mean, if your husband's watching with you, or your guy's watching with you, that's fantastic. But a lot of times it's not the case, right? You want more. You want to change. What can I create in a relationship if all I can affect is her? And the Romance Reset is designed to help you see how to create life satisfaction, forgive completely anything and everything that has happened between you two, while also maintaining standards and boundaries and new norms and speaking up and addressing things. I mean, can you even imagine? It's usually, they don't often go together. You either forgive and let it go, or you step up and you get fierce and you tell them that it needs to change. No, we're doing both, because our goal is not to get angry. It's not to shift into a different lie. It's to ascend above it all into divine design that actually works, right? And then how do you start to flirt again with someone who's become just a logistical roommate? How do you build attraction with somebody who's starting to just kind of look hairy and stinky from over there, right? How do you learn to trust and respect someone who you've lost most of your trust and respect for? That's the Romance Reset. Also a massive course, also $2,000 on its own. 8 weeks, 4 videos in each module. It's huge, right? I'm giving that to you guys, and all of you who have already joined for the Black Friday offer, it is gifted now to you. You will be sent the login info in the next few days. That is now part of this offer, because I'm looking at what I'm giving you guys, and I'm seeing the few remaining gaps, and that's one of them. You need to know how to repair a romantic relationship with a man outside of just the sphere of sexual and outside of the more conceptual concepts that we're going to be going into in feminine mastery around masculine, divine feminine. But it's like, but you and your man and your story, how do you repair that, right? The second thing, okay, because I love the O class, needless to say, the women in there love it too. The husbands love it too, okay? But as I've done a little bit more work with private clients over the last year or so now, it's been like I've been reminded, I can't think of how to phrase it the other way. I've been reminded of how unique women are and where they're at with this particular topic, based often on many of these things, right? Some women literally, when they come to me, they do not want to use the word sex at all, right? It's such that I'm not entirely sure what they want my help with, because they're not giving me the noun, right? They're like, can we talk about that thing that you coach on? And I'm thinking like, girl, I coach on a lot of things, like help me out of here a little bit. But she just won't say the word, like, like that thing, like what thing, So there are some women who this is an area that they're so uncomfortable with that they need me to create. Essentially, I'm always creating a container of safety. Some women were starting a little bit, not farther back, but wider out, right? Like we need to just feel safe in general before we can get closer to discussing this topic directly and bluntly. And those women have the biggest transformations, right? Because when some of the truths click, their jumps forward into accuracy are huger, right? Because they were like a little farther out. So now, like their progress just is astronomical. It's insane. Other women come to me and we can start making jokes. I don't believe there are such things as dirty jokes, because I don't believe sex is dirty. And if it's talking about the misuse of sex, then it's not funny, right? So it's either not funny or it's not dirty. So there's no such thing as dirty jokes, but that's my opinion. So we make sexual jokes and we just have a blast on the phone, right? Laughing our heads off. And we're honing in on, maybe something a little bit more around maybe his performance and his, insecurities, or something that's stressing them out as a couple that's a little bit outside of sex, but it's focusing on sex or it's affecting sex. Like, there are so many unique situations that women find themselves in, and unique positions that they already are in around the topic itself. So what I'm going to do is add 3 one-on-one, 1 hour calls with me as part of essentially the O class. It's part of the package, but these are intended specifically to discuss intimacy, okay? We can discuss your relationship that you're in. If you're dating, we can talk about the bizarre dynamics that looks like. Or if you're not, or if you are in a relationship, but you know that this is an internal struggle for you, we can simply keep it all around your mindset and just becoming safe and feeling comfortable with this facet of your feminine identity in mastery, okay? Or it can get very, specific detailed. There's a lot of difficult things that happen in women's relationships. They go through phases. I've had clients where, they discover he's got some kind of addiction or something. They go through a phase of separation. I'm always guiding them back toward reconciliation if it's possible. If it's not, it's not, right? But there are certain things that, while there are ways I've set up the group calls that are very protective, in that you can write in a question completely anonymously and have total privacy in having your question answered, there's something about being one-on-one on a call, right? And so when I'm enrolling women in the course, it's a particular style of call, but we're not always getting into kind of the solution for her problem. We're finding out if what I do for work is helpful to her situation. But these calls are truly going to be solution goal-oriented. We're going to be doing healing work. We're going to be doing a lot of the intense, intimate discussions that a woman simply feels more comfortable with having with me personally, with no one else around, okay? And I think that is going to allow you guys to make even bigger shifts even faster, because that's what I'm seeing with my private clients. And of course I'm charging, $4,000 and $5,000 for those private coaching packages. This is now included 3 one-on-one calls, intimacy focused, in the bedroom bombshell. It is basically what it is, but the Bombshell Black Friday offer, because I want you guys to not have that gap. Okay, the coursework is phenomenal. The group coaching that comes with it that you get for life every month is also phenomenal, but 3 one-on-ones are going to allow you to just unravel so many things that are going on underneath the surface. So if that would be helpful to you, I'll make sure the link is here on all of these sites for everybody who wants to check it out. Those of you who are already with us, I am so thrilled for you. And even more so, do you guys just love, if you're in any kind of work like this, or even if you just have children, you're just like, oh, look, I got you even more gifts. You know what I mean? This is just getting even better. So I'm thrilled. And I know it feels amazing when I'm more excited for you than I am for me. This is going to be a transformational year for those of you who are stepping into this. The degree of one-on-one access to me, the quantity and quality of content that you're getting to work through, that's going to allow you to identify lies and move out of them to truth through the containers of safety that I am very, very good at establishing for women. It's going to be incredible. So I hope this has been helpful to you guys. I hope that you can see through some of the things that you're believing to some of the things that you have the ability, the possibility to step into instead. And then you can see the process in part, right? It's obviously much deeper and takes time, but the overall kind of broad strokes of the process to move into safety so that you can embody what you now do believe and are experiencing and now are living out as a truth, as a woman who's mastered the art of femininity. I love you all so much. Let me know what you think. I'm going to leave the energy a little quieter this time because this is intense stuff. So thank you for being here with me today. I hope it's been helpful. I would love to hear from you. And for those of you who are about to join us, I know that ledge looks scary, but oh my gosh, the things that are possible when you take that first step. And I promise you, you're going to feel more held and seen and safe. There's no judgment here. There's no shaming here. There's no any of that stuff here. This is where you can exhale and be seen. And especially in all of the one-on-one that you guys are going to have access to with me. It's just you and me, girl. And we're going to unpack a lot of things so we can set you free. For those of you who are already in, congratulations. It just got sweeter, and you'll be receiving the links to everything you need in the next few days. I love you all so much. Have a beautiful Thanksgiving. I'll talk to you, if you're in the US, I'll talk to you after Thanksgiving, and God bless you. I know that this is very intense, and it can be a little disconcerting to hear things that are maybe different from what you've been hearing for a long time. But the truth doesn't move. It's stable, it's concise, it's accurate, and it's a rock. And you're safe there. Getting there may feel scary, but when you're there, you can't be moved. I love you. We'll talk soon.